The moment I saw her name flash across my phone, my chest tightened like a knot pulled too hard. I had spent months perfecting the art of avoiding my CEO, changing elevators, timing coffee breaks, memorizing her meeting schedule so I could disappear before she ever noticed me. I told myself it was professional distance, healthy boundaries, survival. But that night, standing outside a quiet cafe I had never been to before, I realized none of that mattered anymore. Because the blind date I had reluctantly agreed to, the woman I was about to meet for the first time, was the same woman whose footsteps I feared every morning at work, and in that instant, my carefully built walls began to crack. Before this story pulls you any deeper, take a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strange ways life brings people together when we least expect it, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I never planned to work at a place like that company, with its glass walls, silent hallways, and pressure that seeped into your bones. I took the job because I needed stability after a year of personal chaos. What I did not expect was her. She walked into the company like a storm wrapped in calm, confident, sharp, distant, and impossibly composed. People whispered her name with a mix of admiration and fear. She was young for a CEO, brilliant by reputation, and completely unreadable. From my first week, I learned one thing quickly: stay invisible. I was good at my job, but I was better at not being noticed. And yet, somehow, every time she passed by, I felt like she could see straight through me, as if she knew all the doubts I carried quietly. Avoiding her became a strange routine. I volunteered for tasks that kept me off her floor. I took lunches at odd hours. I kept my head down during meetings, even when I had ideas burning to be shared. It was not that she had ever been unkind to me. In fact, she was professional to a fault. But there was something about her presence that reminded me how small I felt, how unfinished my life still was. I was rebuilding myself piece by piece, and the last thing I needed was to feel exposed. Outside of work, my life was quieter than I admitted to anyone. Friends tried to set me up, insisting that I needed to start living again instead of just surviving. I resisted for a long time, until one evening, tired of the loneliness that followed me home, I agreed to a blind date arranged by a friend who promised it would be simple. No pressure, just coffee. I did not dress to impress. I dressed to endure. I told myself this was just another thing to get through. The cafe was warm and dimly lit, the kind of place where time slowed down. I arrived early, choosing a seat near the window, rehearsing polite smiles in my head. When the door opened and she walked in, the world seemed to tilt. She was not in her sharp corporate armor. There was no boardroom, no assistants, no polished distance. She looked human, almost vulnerable, scanning the room with a hint of uncertainty. My first instinct was to leave, to disappear like I always did. But my feet stayed planted, heavy with the weight of fate playing its cruel joke. Recognition hit her too, not immediately but slowly, like dawn breaking. Her expression shifted from confusion to surprise, then something softer I could not name. Neither of us spoke. The silence between us was loud, filled with everything unsaid. I expected her to turn around and walk out. I almost hoped she would, because staying meant facing something I had spent months avoiding. But she stayed. The evening unfolded in a way I never could have predicted. Without the usual titles hanging between us, something different emerged. We were just two people sharing a table, exchanging stories about childhood, failures, quiet dreams we rarely spoke out loud. I learned that behind her composed exterior was a woman who carried enormous pressure, who felt alone at the top, who questioned herself more than anyone would ever believe. And somehow, she learned about my fears, my setbacks, the way I felt like I was always catching up to a life that kept moving faster. Days after that night, work felt different. The hallways were the same, the meetings unchanged, but there was a new awareness humming beneath the surface. We were careful, distant in public, professional to the letter. Yet there were moments, brief glances, shared silences, that carried the memory of that cafe. I struggled with guilt, confusion, and hope all at once. Part of me wanted to quit, to remove myself from the complexity of it all. Another part felt something waking up inside me, something I had buried for a long time. The real challenge came not from rumors or rules, but from within. I had to confront the belief that I was not enough, that someone like her could never truly see me as an equal, And she, I later realized, was fighting her own battle, between the expectations placed on her and the simple desire to be seen as a person, not a position. We navigated carefully, stumbling at times, pulling back when fear crept too close. What changed everything was a moment neither of us planned. A crisis at work exposed cracks in the company's foundation, and I found myself stepping forward, offering solutions I had once kept silent. She listened, not as a CEO assessing an employee, but as someone who trusted me. That trust changed how I saw myself. It gave me permission to believe that I belonged not just in that company but in my own life. Slowly, the distance between us shifted, not rushed, not reckless, but honest. We talked about boundaries, about timing, about the risks and the reality. There was no fairy tale leap, only deliberate steps forward. And in those steps, I learned that avoiding someone is often just avoiding what they reflect back to us. As time passed, the fear that once controlled me loosened its grip. I stopped hiding in elevators. I spoke in meetings. I allowed myself to be visible. And she, too, softened, allowing moments of warmth to exist even in the most formal spaces. We did not change the world overnight, but we changed ourselves, and that felt just as powerful. Now, looking back, I understand that blind date was never an accident. It was life forcing two guarded people to see each other without the shields they wore every day. It taught me that courage does not always roar. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to stay seated when everything inside you tells you to run. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you of a moment when life surprised you in the most unexpected way, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that need them. And before this story ends, I have one special request for you. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. In the end, I did not just stop avoiding my CEO, I stopped avoiding myself. And in that choice, I found not just connection, but a quiet kind of healing that stayed with me long after the cafe lights dimmed and the doors closed behind us.